What would you say to people, especially activists on the ground, who say the UN has failed the people of Gaza and failed the people of Sudan?
I think the world has failed the people of Gaza and the people of Sudan.
In this case, accusing the UAE of arming and funding rebel groups in their civil war.
And 30 million people in need of help. That's more than half the population. Horrendous sexual violence. I spent a lot of time talking to the survivors of sexual violence. We also lose a lot of humanitarian workers in Sudan.
Hi, this is Yaslam Al-Tayyib. I am the founder of The Right Narrative. I am one of the captives who was held in Sudan by the RSF. So I'm a survivor of captivity and torture. I started The Right Narrative to express what the victims go through and also what is happening in Sudan. Today I'm sharing this video with you where Mr. Tom Fletcher, interviewed by Mahdi Hussain in Zeteo, expressing the failure of the UN and the international community in addressing the crisis in Sudan. And that he admitted that how they failed Sudan and failed Gaza. It is critical to listen through this part of the interview because it shows you that is the crime committed in Sudan is the same like the crime committed in Gaza, but in Sudan in a larger scale, in a bigger number. But yet, the crimes in Sudan overlooked and ignored. The criminals are the same. The crime committed in Sudan is perpetrated, organized by the same people, organized the crimes in Gaza and in other places as well, in Yemen and multiple other places. So, not talking long, let's watch and judge what is going on in Sudan and in Gaza.
Efforts in Sudan, where another genocide is raging. What is the situation like there on the ground right now, in your view?
Utterly grim. So I wanted to go to Darfur in my first week to make a point. I spent a week in Sudan, and 30 million people in need of help. That's more than half the population. Horrendous sexual violence. I spent a lot of time talking to the survivors of sexual violence. We also lose a lot of humanitarian workers in Sudan. We had a convoy hit just a few days ago on the way into Al-Fasher. This is a convoy where I'm involved personally in negotiating access through checkpoints and what we call deconfliction, which means basically don't kill us, don't bomb our convoys. Doesn't seem too much to ask, but here we are asking. Utterly grim situation, massive underfunding. Here as elsewhere, 11%, 12% funded, the appeals that we have. So we've got to get more visibility. Once again, we have the problem that you can't get in. We need the international media to be in there telling that story. Lise Doucette came in from the BBC with me when I went and told that story very effectively. But we've got to find a way to reconnect with people's sense of solidarity at the moment. Sense of I don't think that's gone away, by the way, just because of a few election results. But somehow we've become more distracted, more anxious. There's a bit of clickbait.
People are overwhelmed as well by just returning to Sudan. The International Court of Justice just dismissed Sudan's case accusing the UAE of arming and funding rebel groups in their civil war, saying it lacked the authority to continue the proceedings. What's your response to that decision? But more broadly, to the UAE, another UN member state's alleged role in all of the horrific violence and the militias in Sudan. What is your message to these because Sudan is a country with a lot of outside powers, not just the UAE, a bunch of outside powers, but the UAE has been very prominent in support of the RSF militias. What's your message?
So I'm in touch with all those powers who have interests in Sudan, but also have interest in a peace process. And clearly, we've got this situation where we've got to stop the arms going in. We've got to get diplomacy engaged again. And I'm a recovering diplomat. I believe that you talk to people you disagree with on the ground, however tough, and you keep going, and you keep finding people ladders to climb down and ways to come to some sort of agreement. I think it will need a regional role in all of that. The UN role will be really important. in Sudan as in places like Syria, which are in transition. We've got to get better at ending wars and saving lives. And we can do that in Sudan is one of those places that with the right attention and patience and creativity, we can do it.
Many people who defend Israel often say we shouldn't be focused on Gaza. We should be focused on Sudan or Yemen. Those are the real humanitarian crises. Why don't you talk about them, they say. You've heard that, I'm sure. As someone who is focused on both Gaza and Sudan, what is your response to that line of argument?
We should focus on those crises as well. That's why I went to Sudan first, because in terms of numbers, it's the biggest on my patch right now. It's why I briefed the Security Council on Yemen more than on any other crisis so far, because that is a massively neglected, invisible crisis. The difference with Gaza is the ferocity, the intensity of the killing right now, and the frustration we feel to see all that aid sat on the pallets at the border and not reaching starving people 100, 200 meters on the other side of the border.
What would you say to people, especially activists on the ground, who say the UN has failed the people of Gaza and failed the people of Sudan?
I think the world has failed the people of Gaza and the people of Sudan. We have to stand against this era of impunity and indifference. And yes, the UN as the body that brings together the world is part of that collective failure. I tell you now though, my staff on the ground, my teams on the ground who are running those convoys, who are literally taking the bullets on behalf of the world, who are effectively driving this fire engine back towards the danger to help as many survivors as possible in Sudan, in Gaza, in Ukraine, in Afghanistan, in Yemen, in DRC, where I'll go in the coming weeks, they're not failing. And ultimately it's their courage and the communities we serve on the ground that drive us on and drive us to get better and better at what we do.